السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. All praise is due to Allah, whom we seek His help, we seek His forgiveness, and mercy, blessing be upon our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and on those who follow his footsteps until the day of judgment. Alhamdulillah, it's an honor to have Sheikh Khalid Yasin, alhamdulillah, with us in Kuwait, and actually we are blessed also that we heard his khutbah today, and also the Sheikh is really happy that to be with the brothers, and the Sheikh inshallah will come more often in one term, that inshallah if you come and attend the halaqas and the gathering, these kind of gatherings. So alhamdulillah, before we start with the Sheikh and Sheikh's topic today is the challenges and the responsibilities of the Reverts. So inshallah we'll start a quick introduction from our brother Hamid from right side. Just a quick interview or a quick introduction, your name, and for the Reverts, like your name and how long you'll be, how long you're Muslim, from how long you're a Muslim. So, and then inshallah after that we will come back to the Sheikh, and Sheikh inshallah will start his topic. So Sheikh Adwani, please.
This is my first time, so correct me if I...
No, please go ahead. Just tell me your name and... That's it.
My name is Hamid Al-Adwani. As some of you know me before, saw me before, I alhamdulillah volunteered for Watai Center recently. I am Muslim since 1998. Of course, I born that year. Alhamdulillah, and I'm from Kuwait. And I'm one of YouTube students of Sheikh Khalid Yasin.
Alhamdulillah.
My name is Ahmed Al-Attar. I'm from Egypt. I'm an architect. I've been working here since 2007. I'm a Muslim since birth. I'm married and I have one daughter, and Sheikh saw her last time we came to Tyson.
My name is Michael Johnson, but might be Mikhail now. I'm not sure, but I'm a swimming teacher. I've only been in Kuwait since January, and I became a Muslim 1 month ago. And I'm reborn, and can't believe the way I feel. Just so happy. So,
And you're from Britain?
Scotland.
No, he's from England.
Sorry,
He's from England, Britain.
England.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahmed Hassan is my name, and I came into Al-Islam, I reverted back to Islam in 1975 from Detroit. I'm here as a program analyst. Alhamdulillah, I've been here for almost a year now. I was here before for 3 years, and I'm back, alhamdulillah.
يا بالعربي السلام.
اسمي محمد القحطاني.
يا نعم.
الحمد مسلم منذ الولادة.
الحمد لله.
طالب الحين طالب.
ما شاء الله. أول brother Muhammad al-Qahtani, he is a brother of the Imam actually. ما شاء الله. And brother.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
My name is Ali. Most of you know me. And I work in an oil company called Corpo. And I became Muslim about 3.5 years ago.
My name is Ahmed, also known as Alex. I reverted to Islam in 1998, and I've been in Kuwait for 3 years now. And I work in marketing and advertising.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Hussein. I'm from Pakistan, and alhamdulillah I'm a born Muslim, and here I'm working as a financial analyst in Kuwait.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Usman Moin. I'm born Muslim and from Pakistan. Since 2009 I'm in Kuwait.
2009.
My name is Thomas, and I reverted to Islam in 2011. I've been living here in Kuwait for 5 years, and I work on Camp Ayrton as a medical supply technician.
So inshallah we will let our Sheikh start his talk.
Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa ala alihi Ashkabi, whatever, Bach, first of all, I should probably give just a brief introduction of myself, because you are familiar with me from the popular point of view, but popularity is not always accurate. I was born in Harlem, New York, raised in Brooklyn. So I'm a New Yorker, 100%. I accepted Islam in 1965. In fact, I became a Muslim the year that Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz, better known as to the world as Malcolm X, he was assassinated in February of 1965. I became Muslim in October. Alhamdulillah, I have been struggling to be a Muslim, to meet the standards of being a Muslim since that time. And I was favored by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I took an interest in the work of presenting Islam, more commonly known as Dawah, around 1970. And from 1970 until now, searching for answers, going out and trying to present Islam has taken me around the world. So I've been to now about 81 countries, and our primary work with the Purpose of Life Foundation, it is presenting Islam and also providing human services in the community where we live. And these two things should work together all the time. If we are calling ourselves Islamic presenters or people giving dawah, if you want to give effective dawah, in my opinion, you should also be doing human services. Because it's not enough to call people with words, but you need to present answers, you need to provide solutions, and you need to provide services. I'm here in Kuwait in relationship to one of our projects. But, you know, a doctor, wherever he goes, he's still a doctor. I'm not saying I'm a doctor, but, you know, my specialization or the work that I prefer to do is presenting Islam, removing misconceptions and distortions about Islam and Muslims. And then after that, trying to attract people towards the beauty of Islam, the message of Islam. And even if they don't become Muslims, and because that's not my objective, and even if they don't become Muslims, my aim is to establish a relationship with them where if they were antagonistic before about Islam, my job is to reduce their antagonism and have them to say, oh, thank you very much, I didn't know that. And so then they're not aggravated anymore, they're not angry anymore, they don't hate Islam, they don't have these misconceptions in their minds. And then there's a unimpeded highway to be able to talk with them. And usually, sometime in the future, depends on how active I go, how accessible they are to a Muslim or to myself. In a period of time, they either become Muslim, they become sympathetic towards Islam, or at least they become, as the Quran describes them, Waliyul Hamid. That means somebody who they have a love and appreciation for the value of Islam, but they simply never become Muslims. Having said that, I want to talk to the Muslims in particular, I mean the new Muslims in particular, and I want to talk to the Muslims in general about the challenges and the responsibilities that we have, whether living in Kuwait or whether living any place else, towards other human beings. Because sometimes when a person becomes a Muslim, you know, if you listen to Muslims sometime, it's like you joined another club. You know, you with us now. It's like us and them. That's not true. No, there is a us in terms of the particular faith values that we have. That's us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called us Muslimin. So we are with the Muslims. We are Muslims. That makes us responsible. It's not like you have some special gift. It's not like now, it's like us and them. No, it's like a doctor is of a special category of people. Why? Because he's qualified, he's certified to deliver a set of professional services. Is correct or not? Lawyers are of a particular group of people. Not because they have some specialization in dunya, but because they are qualified, they are certified to deliver a certain set of professional services. So we Muslims, we should be proud to be Muslim, but you should also know that being a Muslim carries a very significant, a very clear set of responsibilities towards other human beings. For instance, when a person becomes a Muslim and he or she is a new Muslim, of course there's a lot of challenges that's involved there. You're changing your faith, which doesn't necessarily mean changing all your values, because many of us, we come from good families. So when I became a Muslim, I don't just throw out my family values, you understand me? I don't sit with my family, I don't eat with my family, I separate myself from my family. No, Islam doesn't tell us to do that. You retain the values of your family. If you want to call it family culture, if the culture of your family doesn't subvert the values of Islam, you must retain and promote those set of values. When you become a Muslim, okay, you don't have to change your name. Muslims might say, oh, what's your name? Michael? Oh, your name now is Mikhail. No, Allahu Alam. If you know what Michael means, you're among Arab people, you can say Mikhail, it's the same name, you can. But don't let other Muslims designate for you something which changes you and changes your nomenclature, your identity. So when you go back to your family, you got to tell them, oh, my name is not, don't call me Michael. My name is now is Mikhail. So how your mother feels, how your father feels. So if your family gave you a name which is good, that you can relate good to it, you should keep that name. But if your family gave you a name, which maybe signifies something bad, your family, they gave you a name, like Bo Peep or Wiggly Doo or some crazy whatever name, and you just grew up with that name. Okay, the Prophet's sunnah is that when somebody entered Islam and their name had a bad connotation, like a man's name was rough or a man's name was ugly, the Prophet changed his name to Hassan. You see? Or he changed his name to Salim. So because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He loved the creatures to have good names. And He liked us to have good speech. But it is not necessary for us to immediately change our name and therefore antagonize our family. When I became a Muslim, we had some other things about changing our name, because we had the slave master's name and other kinds of things like that. So we just throw away our family's name. But later on, I found out that wasn't right. I should keep my father's name, because my father and my family, they have a right, that I maintain, their, what do you call it, their family integrity. Okay, and that has a value throughout the world. So today, brothers, I want to say first to the new Muslims that we should be grateful to be in a country like Kuwait or any Muslim country that not only offered us Islam and helped to support our Islam, but also facilitates us learning Islam in such a pleasant, fulfilling type of environment. We should be very grateful for that. However, you should not be thinking to yourself, and we should be very careful, that we don't swallow the core with the apple. We don't eat the peeling with the banana. You know, don't eat the whole thing. Don't buy the whole thing. Because in spite of the fact that, mashallah, the brothers or sisters, they are Muslims and they know Islam very well, we should listen to them, we should learn from them, but at the same token, guess what? A part of their presentation and a part of their demeanor and a part of their background and a part of who they are has to do with their culture. And Islam didn't say I have to throw away my culture and adopt somebody else's culture. But if there is something in somebody else's culture which is attractive to me, which is beneficial for me, I can adopt it, no problem, whether it's some type of clothing or some kind of food, but I need to know the difference between Islam and culture. You know, the African Americans, homeboys, we got a culture too. The Arabs, they have their own culture. When we become Muslims, I don't have to adopt their culture, nor do they have to come to America and adopt my culture. We have to find the best of what each other's culture has to offer, and we make that kind of an exchange. And even if we don't exchange it, we tolerate it and we appreciate it. You know, as a new Muslim, we have to respect our teachers. Why? If you were in the dark, you couldn't find your way, and somebody just came along and flicked a light and led you out, just for that, you would be what? You would never forget that person. You were trapped in a mine, or you were trapped in a house. Something caved in, and just somebody came in and rescued you, flipped the light on, and led you out. You never forget that person. Is that wrong? Well, our teachers in Islam, they cut on the light. You see, they let us out from dhulumat to nur, from misguidance to guidance. So whoever teaches you something, a day or a month or a year or for some time, always show your gratitude towards that person. However, don't necessarily affix yourself to that person as if that person, Yasin, becomes the person to make religious decisions for you. Because you don't know what is really the level of that person's faith. You don't know what is the level of that person's even responsibility towards you. The person is like a school teacher. I never forget my grade school teacher. I never forget my junior high school teachers. I never forget my high school teacher. I never forget a professor in the university. I mean, I never forget them. But guess what? I didn't affix myself to them for the rest of my life. And neither do you have to affix yourself to anybody for the rest of your life. What I advise for the new Muslims, I advise the new Muslims to retain the value of what you brought into Islam. Anything that you brought to Islam that is good, your education, your family values, okay? The distinction of your government, your citizenship, okay? Your common sense, your own opinions, your education. If you brought that to Islam, this now becomes a part of your value resource. Don't let somebody demean that you got to reshuffle the deck of your life because now you're a Muslim. That is not true. Secondly, it should keep in their minds is you are adopting a new set of values, or not even so much a new set of values, because good people enter Islam, and they don't enter Islam to be good. Why do they enter Islam? To complement their goodness and sustain their goodness. It's like somebody said, we don't put locks on doors to keep out thieves. We put locks on doors to keep honest people honest. You can figure that part out later. Okay, you got to figure that out later, okay? So locks are there not necessarily to prevent, but it is there as a deterrent, you see. So we came into Islam, most of us, with a set of values that were good values. We retained those values, and Islam will complement those values. And I say often, because I have traveled fairly extensively, some maybe, I don't know how this happened, but I meet people sometimes who are in the diplomatic corps, people who themselves are part of government, and they're part of the foreign diplomatic corps of government. I meet these kinds of people. And I find myself having traveled more than most diplomats. This is what Allah, He gave me. He didn't give me money. You know, He didn't give me a lot of the material things that I wanted. But He gave me something, you know, something that, mashallah, I'm grateful for. That is, Allah gave me exposure to people. One great scholar who I appreciate a lot, his name is Ibn Khaldun. Some people in the West call him the father of sociology. And he wrote a book called Kitab al-Ibar, and the first volume of that book is called Al-Muqaddimah. He said that, the more you understand the world and the society of people, the better you will understand those people. So don't try to figure people out first. Figure out their societies first. When you understand their weather, their geography, their topography, their values, their resources, their language, when you understand their environment, when you understand those things about, you will understand a lot about those people because you studied their environment. Another great scholar who, a little similar to him, but he was a traveler, his name was Ibn Battuta. It's another name. And Ibn Battuta, a very unusual person, when there was no means of travel as we have today, Ibn Battuta, he visited the furthest regions of the world, including China. So to go from North Africa, and by the way, ironically, both Ibn Khaldun and Ibn Battuta, they was both from North Africa. Something about North Africa, I guess. In any case, Ibn Battuta, he went to China, and he went via what's called the Silk Road. And really rough travel. Mountains, valleys, deserts. You know, he had to get on water and get on some boats and go on another to get to China. So you can imagine coming from North Africa to China, and there's no plane, there's no train, there's no buses, so this is like rough travel. So when Ibn Battuta, he got to China, he stayed there for, I think, about 2 or 3 years. And he gave so much benefit to the emperor of China, to the emperor of that dynasty, that when he was about to leave, he says to his wife, a man who has exposed us to so many things. Can you imagine? He's the emperor of China. But Ibn Battuta, because of traveling, exposed him to things he never heard, never seen, could not have imagined. So he had such an appreciation for this man. He said to his wife, what we can give him? What can we give him? So what do you think his wife said? She said, give him one of our daughters. So Ibn Battuta married the daughter of that Chinese emperor. So traveling, one of his principles, he said, I will not talk about people until I breathe their air, taste their food, and walk on their earth, and understand who they are. Then I will write about them. So I want to advise the brothers, the new Muslims, to be patient and to make good observations, okay? And don't eat the whole banana. Don't make nobody let you swallow the whole banana. You got to peel it, throw the peeling away, and you eat the meat. Don't eat the whole apple. You peel the apple, you eat the meat from the apple, and you throw away the core. But some Muslims, they bring Islam with their culture, tell you, eat the whole thing. It's all Islam. You have to observe. You have to look before you leap. You have to listen. You have to observe. You have to appreciate. You have to ask questions. And you have to learn to say, thank you, brother, very much, but no thank you. Because there's a difference between Islam and Muslims. A big difference. I mean, Muslims are in Islam, but Muslims are not Islam. There are many, many Muslim countries. Wherever you go, not today in the world, maybe we say about 27, countries that are primarily Muslim in their population in there. However, Islamic country, I didn't find one yet. So people might say this is an Islamic country. And I'm not going to argue with somebody who says this is an Islamic country, because why should I argue about that? If you're in a boat, the man said, this is a boat, but I know the boat is leaking. So that ain't a boat that I'm going to be on too long. I ain't going out in the water on that boat. So I'm not going to argue with people about what they call the boat or what they call Islam or whatever it is, but I need to know, okay, that primarily today we find Muslims plenty, 1.6 billion Muslims. But I always say, or I say frequently, I thank Allah that I met Islam before I met Muslims. This is no disservice and no insult to any Muslim, because I'm a Muslim. But what I mean by that is that it is unfortunate that the behavior of Muslims today, the image of Muslims today, the thinking of Muslims today, the demeanor of Muslims today, it is not what we would expect when we talk about Islam, its history, its values, its distinctions, and you have to be aware of that. And you have to be honest about that. And in saying so, Allah is just and Allah is fair. If your body requires new blood because the old blood has become contaminated, if your doctor told you, you need new blood, you need to, that's like dialysis, right? That's what the dialysis is about, is that correct? Nobody will say it. Nobody, if the doctor told you you got renal failure, and if you don't change your blood on a regular basis, you're going to die. Would you have any argument about that? No. The Muslim body today has renal failure. The Muslim body has renal failure. It requires what? New blood. And the new Muslims that are coming into Islam, this is the new blood. So we are not the body, but we are providing the Muslim body with what?
New blood.
New blood, new thinking, new ideas, new inspiration, new insight, new products, new services. You see? A new disposition, a new demeanor, a new outlook. And Allah is also just, that even though the new Muslims are not coming into Islam with the language, we're not coming to Islam maybe, with a distinctive Muslim government. We're not coming into Islam with the culture that's been here for 700 years, 1100 years. We don't come to Islam with that. But we're bringing new life, new energy, new insight, new inspiration to a body that is asleep, and in many cases a body that is dead. That is what Allah is doing for the Muslim world. And we can see, and I'll just use my country as an example, other people can use their country. I spent quite a bit of time in England. I have visited Scotland, Ireland. I lived in Manchester and Sheffield for some time. So I can speak a little bit, and through that I was using that as a base to travel throughout Europe. I can say, subhanAllah, that as a Muslim, I found the work, the dynamism of Islam. I found Islam more dynamic, moving, fresh in the West, in the Western countries, and in my country than I do in the Muslim countries. Let me give you an instance. If I could ask my brother here, Muhammad Naqawi, how many people could he say, with all the non-Muslims who work in Kuwait, how many people could he say that in the last 10 years, let's just say, or let's say the last 12 years since 9/11, let's say. How many people do you think that entered Islam as a result of Muslims presenting Islam to them? Maybe a few thousand. I mean, all the money is here, all the books is here, all the language is here, the scholars are here. I mean, the masters are visible, man. You can just walk in any direction, man. 15 minutes, you're gonna run into a masjid. You don't have to even ask, where is a masjid? I can take our brother's country, Egypt, where I lived for a year, and one of my favorite places, you know, where that I go to, Egypt. I mean, not recently. You know, Muqattam. Yes, I have an apartment there. I don't know if it's still occupied or not. You know, so much problems going on. But anyway, so every year Egypt receives something like 175,000 tourists. So I did some research, and I said, okay, this is a country, you know, Qahira is a city, they say, of 1,000 mosques. It's probably much more than 1,000 now. They say the city of 1,000 mosques, and they call Egypt like Dunya, right? Yeah. So 175,000 people go to Qahira to go to Egypt every year from different places. And they go up and down the Nile, the Valley of the Kings. They go to this place, to Ahram and Heliopolis, and this place, that place, and mashallah, they're all over getting trinkets and whatever the case might be. My question is, in a country which has had Islam for over 1,000 years, which has over 1,000 mosques, and I mean, Azhar has more scholars than Dunkin' Donuts got biscuits. So then I asked the question, how many people of those 175,000 people do you think become Muslims, or they go back home impressed and tell their families about Islam? How many do you think? In all honesty, what do you think? Do you think 5%? Do you think 2%?
Say 500 people.
Out of 175,000 become Muslims?
Maybe.
There's no record of that.
Yeah, but those 175,000 you're talking about, they're coming for a certain target, which is tourism.
Yes, I know that shit. I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that. However,
Unless,
yes, Chef, I understand that. And this is no blame upon Egypt, its government, or its people.
no, I'm not talking about Egypt, I'm talking in general.
Yeah.
The tourists.
What I want to say to you is that regardless of why they are coming to a country that is predominant in the Muslim world for knowledge and Islamic legacy. And therefore, even though they didn't come for that, okay, I can go to a country, like if I went to, and I'll use a bad example. In Addis Ababa, this time of night right here, there's 150,000 prostitutes walking the streets. Addis Ababa. Some of the most beautiful women in the world, but they're walking the streets as prostitutes. So, you know, people go to Addis Ababa and, you know, they're looking for historical legacy and all that, but what they find? Man is there by himself, what he finds? So, same in Egypt. If I'm going to Egypt and I'm visiting all these mosques and all these places of legacy and so forth and so on, someone has to talk to me about Islam. Well, the truth of the matter is, based upon the records of the Ministry of Tourism, less than 0.03% of people go back home with a positive feeling about Islam. Not Shahada, was a positive feeling. Why? Because they went there for something, but they are not impressed. They are not impressed with the stability and the social function of the society. They're going there for something else. And I'm only saying that to say that it is unfortunate that we Muslims are carrying the treasure of Islam. And we only need to expose people to that treasure in a common conversation, inspire people, invite people, show them, talk to them, mentor to them, and connect Islam with whatever it is that they're looking at. And then through our behavior and through our conduct, they have a better picture, and they can say to people, you know, these are just wonderful people. Their values, you know, their principles, their city, their cleanliness, you know, their organization. They just have a wonderful society, but that is generally not the impression that people go home with. So what I want to say to the new Muslims in particular is that we have to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be part of the Muslim world. And we have to take from the Muslim world the good that is there, and there is a lot of good there. But we have to observe the condition, the social condition of the Muslim world, and we have to bring some values from where we came from, and we have to insert those values into the Muslim world so that we can repair some of the social dysfunction that we see in the Muslim world. We're talking about challenges and responsibilities. I also want to tell the new Muslims, you know, that it is incumbent upon you not to just accept Islam as a set of principles and to read some books and to go through the rituals and go to the mosque. This is good. But you need to have a deep understanding, appreciation of the Islamic values. And you need to know that knowledge in Islam is like the same as driver's education. See? In America, you're not allowed to drive in any state before you take driver education. Is that correct? You got to take a test. I mean, even in your, you got to take a test. Or you got to ask some questions for your own safety and for the safety of others. You need to know about the vehicle that you're driving. You just need to know what roads, you need to recognize signs, all these kinds of things so that you can be what? You can be functional on the highway. Well, in the highway of life, in the highway of Islam, we have two sources for our education. It's the Quran and the Sunnah. So reading the Quran in Arabic is good, and you should make the effort to do so. But it's more important for you, as a new Muslim, to read the Quran so that you understand what it is. What are the rules that's being given to you? What are the principles that are given to you? What's the significance of the stories that are being given to you? Okay, the Quran, how is it structured? How many verses is there in the Quran? What are the divisions of the Quran? Okay, you need to build a relationship with the Quran so that as a Muslim, because this becomes the evidence for the principles that you have adopted. Secondly, you need to build a very clear relationship with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I mean, you have to love him not because he's a great guy, a wonderful prophet, I mean a wonderful person. That's great. But you need to have a very integrated, intimate relationship with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to the degree that you take a small biography, you read that biography over and over and over, until you become very familiar with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, more familiar with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam than you are your mother and father, more familiar than you are with the professor of your university, more familiar than you are with your children, more familiar than you are with your cousins, your uncles and aunts, more familiar than you are with movie stars, with athletes, and with, you know, very important people. You should be more familiar with the Messenger of Allah, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, than any other human being. Because why? Because he is the human focal point for all of the values that you have as a Muslim. So there are two things that you and I, as new Muslims, should spend a lot of time, or some of our free time doing. What's the two things? Studying the Quran. Just reading the Quran in the language which you know. Because I'm not going to tell you that you're going to get the deep knowledge of the Quran in English, but you know, the deep knowledge will come. But language is language. Values are values. Don't let anybody tell you that you don't understand the Quran until you speak Arabic. That is not true. And that would not be fair. Because perhaps only 1% of all the Muslims in the world actually speak and understand Arabic well. Because there's Muslims who speak Arabic and they got their own lahja, they got their own vernacular. They got their own, way of speaking Arabic. But if you was to give them the Quran and have them somebody recite the Quran to them, and you were to ask them, what is that meaning of this ayah? They could not give it to you. Why? Because the level of the language which was given from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the Arabs, the level is different than any level of Arabic that is spoken by Muslims generally. So, on that basis, the Quran has been translated, or the meanings of the Quran have been translated now into about 43 languages. That means everyone in the world, with almost any language, has access to the basic meanings of the Quran. You and I, we should take advantage of that. And since you got smartphones, even if you're not so smart, you make sure you got the Quran on your phone in the language that is your native language. And if you can't read Arabic, just read 10 verses a day. So the Quran is like 6,626 verses. There's some differences among different people, whether, Bismillah is a verse or it's not a verse, and this and that. So, but 6,626 verses. So if you read 10 verses a day, how long will it take you to finish the Quran? You guys that are like statisticians.
About 2 years.
About 2 years, right?
Yeah, less than 2 years.
Less than 2 years. That is not a big challenge to do. Not saying that you'll be like an expert in the Quran. No. But you will at least be what? Familiar with the structure of the Quran. The themes of the Quran. The Quran has 3 themes, basically. First theme is Tawheed. Allah is talking about himself. Throughout the Quran, Allah is in every way, either in the beginning or at the end, Allah is talking about himself. The signature of Allah is there. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Inna Allah ghafur rahim. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he announced in the beginning, he signed off at the end. And in the middle, Allah is talking about some other things. Qasas al-Anbiya. This means what? The stories of the prophets. Why he give us stories of the prophets? Because they was the best people. Those are the best examples. And the challenges they met with, we're going to inevitably meet with. So if you understand their lives, you'll be able to manage your life better. And the other thing has to do with principles that if you observe them will determine whether you go to hell or that you go to paradise. This is halal and haram.
Sorry.
It's okay. See, these are the 3 themes of the Quran. So simply, if you understand those 3 things, you can kind of understand the whole Quran, because wherever you're going to turn to, one of those 3 themes is going to be right there in front of you in a different way. Huh? Reading the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ is going to make you familiar with not only his biography, but the dimensions of his life and the dimensions of his message. And you'll be able to compare as you start reading the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. Did you find anyone whose life has so many non-conflicting dimensions? Because Allah, he said, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ. Certainly you'll find in the Messenger of Allah ﷺ the most profound pattern of human behavior. So either that's true or it's not. And guess what? In my talking with non-Muslims around the world, I never found any professor of biography or history or human conduct or psychology or whatever. They could never produce for me another human being whose human example have so many non-conflicting dimensions, okay, they could never produce it. And this is how profound the life of the Prophet ﷺ is. So if you spend a lot of time reading Quran, reading the life of the Prophet ﷺ, over a period of time, 2-3 years, you'll find that any other knowledge that comes to you, it will start to balance. It will start to balance. You may not be still speaking well in Arabic, but your behavior will start to become what? Islamized. Your knowledge, your understanding, you see, of the word of Allah will start to become what? Islamized. So just reading the Quran, reading from the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, and listening, being simple. And secondly, practice what you preach. You know, don't go fast to read a lot of books, do a lot of worship, try to do so many things that you cannot implement internally. Take it step at a time. And Muslims, sometimes in teaching you Islam, they teach you Islam the same way they feed you. Now you go to Muslims' houses, and Muslims is good for what? Feeding the guests, man. That's one thing, mashallah. You don't go nowhere in the world where the Muslims, nobody can beat the Muslims. I mean, if you really like a special guest, someplace, you can go to some place where it's like poor people. You know what they would do? Man, they would slaughter a camel for you. It's just like 7 people. They will slaughter a whole sheep for you, and to make sure that you know that this sheep is just slaughtered for you, they put the head right there on top. Is right? Okay. So I mean, this is kirama. This is only for what? Treating the guests, because Muslims is jealous. They want to treat their guests. But the same token, what do? Sometimes they feed you too much. Yes. Huh? So this is something which is good, but at the same token, you need to balance that with the actual principles of Islam. Our Prophet ﷺ, he said, we don't eat, meaning that our habit as Muslims, we don't eat until we are hungry. And we do not continue eating until we are full. So you can see that sunnah was lost a long time ago, right? You can see that sunnah was lost, right? So it's good for us to learn these principles and learn them step by step. And people will tell you, you need to do this, you need to do that. You need to put something on your head, you need to wear this stove, wear this turban, do this, do that. Instead, you got to make tarawih in Ramadan, and you got to come do these here 20 rak'ahs. You got this, you got that, you got to go make hajj, you got to do so and so. Man, Muslims will put you where you be like Juha. How many, Juha? Huh? Juha, this is a joke. All the Egyptians, they know Juha. So you will become like a man who's carrying the donkey and his son and everything on his head. Because you need to know what your diet is. And you need to control your diet, whether it's for knowledge or whether it's for food. You go at your own pace and don't let other people dictate for you your pace in Islam. Huh? Second thing, yes, another thing. We Muslims have a responsibility to drink as much of Islam as we can, but not just for yourself. You need to drink as much of Islam as you can and package it well so that you are able to take that package of Islam, wrapped very well, looking very nice, smelling very nice, tasting very nice, in a way that people can hear it and appreciate it very nice, and take it to whom? Take it back to our families. We have an obligation to make sure that what we got from Islam, the goodness we got from Islam, that we are able to package it and take it back to our people. Okay? The last thing that I want to say to you. As a Muslim, do not become complacent. You got a good job, you got a good quality of life, you're eating good food, you got good clothes, you got stability for yourself. You didn't come into Islam for that. And you have to be very careful. You can be living some places and you get so bling bling and so satisfied and laid back. After a while, you know, you find out that your moral responsibility to your family and your moral responsibility to humanity is just gone. You're just thinking about maintaining what you have for yourself. So retain a sensitivity. You have become Muslims to serve other people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said in the Quran to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. He told Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we did not send you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, except as a rahmah to who? Not to your people. He sent you as a rahmah to the whole of humanity. So we Muslims, whatever Allah is giving to us, He's preparing us to fulfill a responsibility to the rest of the world. Muslims are supposed to be the ones that when there's poor people, people that have been affected by trauma and disaster and orphans and problems and issues and ignorance and after war and all these things, Muslims are the ones who are the most responsible to address that. Now, everyone would not agree, and they don't have to. But I think that as a Muslim, you need to retain a sense of your humanitarian responsibility to the rest of the world. When you eat at night and you get up in the morning and when you drink this fresh water and you eat drink this tea and you eat this nice food, halawa, and eat this good food or whatever, you should be thinking to yourself that 1/3 of humanity, they never seen a glass, they never seen a bottle of water like this. Some people, they didn't drink a bottle of water like this here in a year. They didn't. And some of us, we just drink it and we just leave it. Because it has become something like, it's no big deal. When you eat your food, you should thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the food that you eat, because there are people in the sub-Sahara, in a place in what? They're taking dirt, mixing the dirt with spices, making cakes out of that dirt, sitting it and letting it dry, and they sell it to other people to eat because they got nothing else to eat, and their justification is it's better for them to eat the dirt because at least the dirt, it has some vitamins and other kind of minerals inside the dirt, and at least it tastes some good because it got spices in it, and they're eating dirt and they're drinking dirty water. So, having said that, each one of us living here in Kuwait or the Gulf, or living in UK, or living in my country, the United States of America, we should set aside some of our money. And I'm not talking about zakat. You should set aside a certain amount of your money morally for those people. Those people, because who have an obligation to them? Who has the obligation to feed them? We do. So, brothers, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may Allah He preserve you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He bless you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He guide you. May Allah make you consistent. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make you sensitive. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase your knowledge. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those of you who are not married, may Allah He give you the wives which you want and what you like. If you don't have children, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and give you children. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you will not only appreciate the gift of Islam, but that you will share that gift with others. And for the brothers who were born Muslims, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He cause you to appreciate that which you were born with. And that you are not people, you understand me, who you see other people as miskeen. They're like unfortunate people. No, that you select a non-Muslim, that you select a new Muslim to be your homeboy. That you look for a new Muslim in the masjid. That you ask, when you see somebody that don't look like a Kuwaiti, doesn't look like an Arab, doesn't look like he's a born Muslim, you can tell from the language or something else, you should walk up to that person and introduce yourself. Assalamu alaikum, brother, how are you? How you feeling? Where you from? My name is Khalid. My name is so-and-so. Where do you live? Why you don't come home with me? Have some tea with me. Meet my family. Share some food with me. So I can find out about your story. Find out who's your family, who's your children, We can exchange things together. And then for the next year, I become sort of like a person that helps to guide you, to support you, okay, to fill in the gaps for you. This is what we need to do for those people who are born Muslims. So if the born Muslims do their job, what will happen, I can guarantee you this. If a born person who's a born Muslim chooses a new Muslim as a friend, that new Muslim will refresh your iman for you. You see? And you will also get the reward of filling in some gaps for that new Muslim. And that new Muslim will also rely upon you to explain certain things and introduce to them good teachers. These are very important parts of the duties and responsibilities of new Muslims and the duties and responsibilities of the Muslims who were born. And it's almost like the Ansar and Muhajirin type dynamic. That those who are already Muslims is like the Ansar. That because you have the land already. The Muhajirin is the new Muslims who they made the hijrah towards Islam. So what kind of relationship did the Prophet ﷺ do when he went to Medina and he had people, you understand me, who made the hijrah, or the migration with him? He took one Ansar and one Muhajirin, and he did what? He married them. He put them together as brothers. You see one Ansar, what he told his Muslim, his Muhajir brother? He said, look, he says, half of my wealth is for you. And my house also for you. And also I got 2 wives. You can choose the one you like. He didn't say I got an old wife and a new wife. I'm gonna keep the new one, you had the old one. He said, I got 2 wives, you choose the one you want. See, this was a what? This was a gesture of what? Real brotherhood. But what did that Muhajir brother say? He told him, thank you very much, Akhi, I appreciate that. You know, regarding some of your wealth, you keep that. Just take me to the marketplace, show me where the marketplace is at, I'll get my money, I'll get me some wealth. And about your wife, those is yours. Inshallah, Allah will provide for me. So, but it's the gesture of brotherhood. And we should use those kinds of gestures to measure the kind of relationship that we have. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the work that our brother is doing and the work that some of his colleagues are doing, we ask Allah to reward them for that. And we ask you brothers to do your part. And what is your part? That when there's a gathering, you should come. And you should bring another brother or sister who you know that has the need for this kind of service. And those brothers who assist and support Brother Muhammad in this kind of work, you should be consistent. You should be prepared to set aside 2 hours a week just to do that. And you will find, inshallah, that when like a Chinese philosopher said, when the carpenter works on the wood works on the carpenter. You understand what I just said? You understand what that means? So if you're doing the work of da'wah and khidmah, guess what? The da'wah and the khidmah also works on you. And we ask Allah to bless this effort, inshallah, to expand this effort. And that I can see that one day that this effort will bear fruits that people could not imagine. And I'll just give you one final thing. In America, since 9/11, I asked him, I knew the answer. In the Gulf itself, I can say probably in the last 10 years, on the average in the Gulf, 15,000 people become Muslims, on the average. This is from experience being in the Gulf, from Saudi Arabia all the way, all through the Gulf. Approximately 15, maybe 18,000 people become Muslims. With all the wealth, with the haramain, with all the masjids, with all the scholars and everything, about 15,000 people become Muslims. Okay, a lot of facade, a lot of corruption. Just since 9/11, how many people do you think became Muslims? Give me an idea.
100,000.
No, maybe, I would say probably a million, maybe 500,000.
637,000 by one estimate. This is during the war on Islam. Not a war against Muslims, but a war against Islam, an ideological war against Islam. 630,000 people became Muslims. But the most ironic or fantastic thing I want to share with you. 8 out of 10 of those people who became Muslims, they become Muslims from a new Muslim. So this means that we have a tremendous responsibility. This is a tremendous gift which Allah has given to us. And therefore, I believe that the gift of Islam that Allah gave to us, with the resources that we brought to Islam, is just as valuable as the oil which is under the ground here in the Gulf. Everybody needs that oil, right? But guess what? Everybody also needs that Islamic message. So let us be aware of what we bring to Islam, and let us be aware of what others benefit us with, and let us make a fair exchange. Let us be very sincere, and let us be very consistent, and let us all be very grateful. And I end by saying I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this opportunity. If I wasn't told, Sheikh, you have the floor between Maghrib and Isha, I would not be talking like this. I would just talk maybe 5 minutes and stop and we have some dialogue. But he told me, Sheikh, you have the floor between Maghrib and Isha, and it comes quick. So if there is opportunity for us to come together and do some kind of Q&A another time, I don't mind, inshallah. I expect to be coming back and forth to Kuwait fairly often. We have an office in Dubai. We have another office in Hargeisa, which is north part of, it's in Somaliland. So Kuwait is in between, it's like between the Dubai and Hargeisa. We can stop in Kuwait and we can go on. So I have many reasons to frequent Kuwait now. And now Brother Muhammad and other brothers like our brother Hamid and other brothers, they have given me more reason to make Kuwait one of the places that I frequent. And so please, I ask you for your tolerance and for your, I ask your pardon for anything that I might have said, some graphic things, I might have said something you don't agree with, I might have said some things that are sometimes a little bit sensitive or whatever. But I'm just speaking from my own subjective experience, so you can wrap it all up on where you can just throw it in the trash if it's irrelevant. Or if I said something that was good, that you can benefit from, then you package it and you use it accordingly. And at the end, I see وَقُلُوا قَوْلِي هَذَا وَأَسْتَغْفِرُ اللَّهَ لِي وَلَكُمْ يَا اللَّهُ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ يَا أَرْحَمَ الرَّاحِمِينَ سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Thank you, Sheikh, of course, and inshallah we'll go to the masjid now to pray Isha. But Sheikh Adwani, do we have a little bit of time after Isha so we can just give the brothers like?
Unfortunately.
No, huh? So inshallah then we will come back and inshallah perhaps Sheikh will continue his inshallah the place that he would like to go. So inshallah we will pray and we will come back again, all the brothers inshallah. And we say Jazakallah khair Sheikh for your mashallah great talk. Alhamdulillah. And we will be really glad that you come and as the brothers mashallah, I'm sure that they will write down their questions and they will prepare whatever they would like to ask.
If you don't mind, I'd like to make like a small commercial. You know what I mean? We watch TV and they always it's like we got to stop for like a commercial advertisement.
Okay.
So I want to put a little plug here. We just completed, alhamdulillah, the Purpose Media Group, which is one of the sister organizations of the Purpose Life Foundation. We just completed what we believe is the largest web portal in the Muslim world. And so you guys who are computer literate, you understand the difference between a website and a web portal. It's called skypurpose.com. Right now it's in beta, what do you call it, beta testing. But the 13th of June, we will launch it. Inshallah. I think that when you go there, you will find it very, very resourceful. Because we built it in such a way that people don't go there just for religion. They go there for services. And secondly, we built it in such a way that within 2 years or 3 years, it has the capability to support Islamic work because it has 6 or 7 revenue streams. So you may look at it and see that as a scientist or as a computer technician, that maybe there's something that you can help us to upgrade. Please let us know. Because it's just a baby being born. So there will be something that you can contribute. And I'm not a technician, I'm sort of the visionary. But we've got qualified technicians who have done the back end and the front end of it, and we're launching it, inshallah, next Friday. So you can go there and register for free, but you will just basically get what the free people get. You can just click, 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 and find a lot of stuff. But if you really want the mukh, you know, if you want the substance of the portal, you should become a member. Huh? And there's different levels of membership. And you will have to see what membership is, and is it worth it for you to be an annual member, a gold member, a platinum member? And I think, inshallah, that those of you who like WhatsApp and Facebook, Twitter, you'll find that we have fully integrated all the social media platforms with the Sky Purpose portal. If you like religious TV, it's there. But if you like biography channel, the history channel, you know, things like that, if you like sports, it's also there. So we spent a lot of time trying to figure out how this could be beneficial to Muslims and their non-Muslim family members and friends, and we built it also with that in mind. Having said that, inshallah, maybe all of you brothers after this Friday, you will go to skypurpose.com and at least you will register, inshallah.
Jazakallah khairan, inshallah, we'll pray and come back.